Today's video is on lesson 3.1, solving equations using addition and subtraction. And this is probably a review for everybody, but it's something we're going to be using a lot this year, so it's worth reviewing. So a couple things. First of all, whatever is done to one side of an equal sign, you have to do it to the other side. So if you add to the left side, you also have to add to the right side. And to solve an equation, you have to use the inverse or the opposite operation. So if it's a subtraction problem, you have to add to solve. So if we look at the example number 1, we have x minus 7 equals 11. So we're subtracting 7 in the original problem, so we're going to add 7 to both sides in order to solve that. So we get x equals 18. Then we'd want to check because we want to make sure we did it correctly, and so we substitute 18 in place of x. And 18 minus 7 is 11, so it checks correctly. Example number 2 is x minus 9 equals negative 17. So we're subtracting in the problem, so we're going to add 9 to both sides. And so when we add 9 to negative 17, we get negative 8. And then we're going to check that. And so negative 8 minus 9, if we double sweep that, it becomes negative 8 plus negative 9, which is negative 17. We look at this next example. This one's a little bit more involved because we have negative 11 equals n minus negative 2. I would suggest double sweeping that minus negative 2 and make it plus 2. So then when you make it plus 2, you're going to subtract 2 from both sides, or subtracting 2 is the same thing as adding negative 2. So we're going to add negative 2 to both sides. And you can see I did it both ways, subtracting 2 over here on the right with the double sweep rule, or adding negative 2 on this left problem. And so then we get n equals negative 13 for either way that we do that problem. And then, of course, we're going to check that. Notice I also drew lines down through the equal sign. That just helps me to identify the two different sides of the equation. You can do that, but you don't have to if you are pretty proficient at these types of problems. All right, then the next problem we're going to look at is 5 plus x equals negative 3. Now this is a little bit different because I said to you a few minutes ago that we have to do the opposite operation. And in this particular problem, we're adding with the x, but if we add 5, that's not going to help us here. So we have to make sure we're subtracting here. So make sure that you're doing whatever will undo this. And you will see that here in example number 5 a little bit clearer. So we have 5 minus 5 on both sides, so x equals negative 8. And then substitute and check. So number 5 here we have negative 4 plus x, but we're not going to subtract 4 because if we subtract 4 from negative 4, we're actually going to get a bigger negative number. So we have to do the opposite here. So it's negative 4, so we have to add 4 to both sides. So be careful with problems like number 5 that you are doing whatever it will take to make that number with the variable equal to 0. And then, of course, we check it. Here are a couple practice problems I would like you to do. I'd like you to write the equation and then solve it. So the temperature is x degrees and it fell 5 degrees, which means it's minus 5, and is now 13 degrees. What was the original temperature? Don't just give me an answer. Make sure that you write the equation with the variable and then solve it. And then number 7, a 9-foot post extends x feet below the ground and is 7 feet above the ground. What's the length, x, that's buried below the ground? Again, make sure you write the equation. Don't just give me the answer. I want the equation. I want to see the steps to solve it. Those are the problems due for tomorrow. Make sure you have those done and your notes complete and bring them to class. Have a good night.